Alrighty, making a video. So I have a flower here for Sandy. This is a real red rhododendron. This is how the rhododendron looks like. This is how the leaves look like. Okay, and it is a beautiful, beautiful flower. They are blooming right now. They are always the first in the year, the red ones. The purple one is a couple of months later. I will show that one too. And then come all the pink ones at the other house. We have really large rhododendron. The flowers are like 4 or 5 times the size of this here from the pink ones at the other house. They come out in the summertime, June, July. So this is these are different breeds, different types. This is absolutely gorgeous, and every rhododendron cures all virus infections and all bacterial infections or fungal infections, and it's anti-carcinogenic. All of that. All. And not only that, it is a sedative. It has no side effects. It's an antidepressant. Has no side effects. It's not addictive, and it has wonderful, wonderful effects on the immune system, the endocrinological system, the brain, the peripheral nervous system, the central nervous system. It's absolutely amazing, 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 amazing. It cured Paul from that virus. I believe he had the coronavirus. One form of it he had over a year ago, and he didn't listen to me in the beginning to vaccinate himself with the tea, so he caught it, and he was suffering hellishly. And I said, I don't want to struggle with you. If you don't drink the tea, you're on your own. You have to drink the tea if you want to get well, if you don't want to go to the hospital, right? So he finally drank the tea for 2 days only, and instantly started to cure. Instantly. Just like after drinking the tea, 2 hours later, he didn't have the symptoms anymore. Now, that's really serious. And this has been peer reviewed and documented and tested in different laboratories around the world, in India and the United States. This has been verified that rhododendron gets rid of all viruses, all virus infections. So putting this back in here into this buttonhole, so because that looks really nice. I like that, and it matches the red in the t-shirt, and that looks good. I like it. And the red, there's some red in here too. I made this myself. Looks a little bit like that jester, Till Eulenspiegel. Till Eulenspiegel was a jester. A beautiful, beautiful soul. He was the clown of a king. and he wanted justice. He always fought for justice. I don't know if that's an actual figure, or I think it is, or if it's just something that the fairy tales made up. But I think that Till Eulenspiegel existed. I think he was also a Minnesinger, and somewhere around 1300, 1400. So, and the clowns, they made themselves these kind of hats, and they were there to be a muse, the muse of the royal court, the muse of the kings and queens. So, and the jesters are that what Jonathan Miese, the artist Jonathan Miese, is talking about, who said, because people asked him, so what made you become one of the top 100 modern artists in the world? And Jonathan Miese gave a long lecture in front of thousands of people in Berlin, I think. And he said that it started out meek and mild as a dork. He was just a dork, and then he went into the valley of ridicule. That's what I call the Ego Dissolution Funnel. You have to go through that if you want to come out the other end as yourself, free from society. You have no other choice. You have to do that. So he explained that in detail, how he had to go through the valley of ridicule. So Friedrich Nietzsche talks about that in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's a fairy tale. He talks about how the Zarathustra had to go through that Ego Dissolution Funnel. He didn't call it that. He didn't even call it the Valley of Ridicule, but he said he had to go into the valley. And it's interesting that a Waldorf school teacher that I had a long time ago, when I was just 7 years old, he did a lot of intuitive poem reading, and that's what they did in the beginning of the first grade, the second grade. In the Waldorf school, the teacher would find a poem to fit each child, and he found just exactly the right poem for me, which is very, very, very much what the Zarathustra was going through. In Friedrich Nietzsche's book, there's a poem. I forgot now who had written that poem, someone in the past. But that poem, a short poem, was really that he chose for me as my personality, was really, really fitting. And in that poem, just like the Zarathustra, that person has to go, and the person talks from the I perspective. I know I have to go through the valley. I know I have to go through the valley again and again and again, whether I like it or not. And it's very difficult, but I have no other choice. I have to go through, and I thank that teacher for that. I thank him for contemplating on my personality and finding this very, very fitting poem. And so each child was then memorizing their own poem, and he would have different children come up to the front every day, and every day different person coming to the front and reciting that poem. And I knew instinctively, even as a child, that this poem was for me, that this is what I am, this is what my life is all about. And my life had just started then when I was 7. And I was in Annalise's play therapy at that time. And when I came to Annalise's play therapy, I would hang in her swing. She had a swing in the play cellar, swing that was bolted to a vaulted, arched ceiling. That building was from the Middle Ages, from like 1500 or so. So they had these souterrain cellar type of catacombs and in one of those was her setup for play therapy, and it had windows in it to the outside, but we could only see people's shoes walking by. And so it brought daylight into the play cellar. And she had this swing attached there, and she had Casper Theater in there. And so I would come in there after school. I came to her twice a week for just an hour. That was not very long enough. Thank you, Blue God. And 1111. That's the approval of the Blue God, that what I'm saying is the truth. I only speak the truth. I don't lie. So I'm not saying I've never lied. I have lied before. And I would lie again to save someone. So, but only for self-defense purposes. But I decided I'm not gonna lie anymore. So I don't wanna lie anymore about anything. This piece of rhododendron on my little finger feels really good. So yeah, it was nice. Annalise, she saw exactly what my personality is all about, and my emotional pain, the trauma that I already had experienced. And she saw sexual abuse in my paintings that my parents brought along for their interview. They brought 1,000 drawings that I had made. 1,000. And every one of those drawings, almost every one, was a crime scene, a ghost, a cut off arm, a woman whose soul is leaving her body. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on. I painted an Iron Maiden, which is what Jimmy Donaldson was showing. He showed these escape rooms. I can't even watch though. Most of these videos I can't even watch because I'm too hypersensitive with this kind of stuff. And he has this. I just clicked on it and looked at it for a few minutes, and I had to turn it off. Escape rooms with like spikes coming out of the walls and stuff like that. And those are not escape rooms, those are torture rooms. Okay, so and an Iron Maiden is a middle-aged torture instrument that is basically a fairly small room. They can't even do that with really large rooms like Jimmy was showing. So, but in the Middle Ages they would have these chambers that have really large swords or knives that are coming out of the wall, out of either iron walls or stone walls that have these iron swords and stuff in it that stick out, like one sword after another next to each other with a foot distance or something like this, or even half a foot distance, like all the walls all the way around with these knives. And then a person who would be tortured would be pushed into that, and they will lock the door, and then they will turn this mechanism on, or they have this. In the Middle Ages they had these elaborate mechanisms, but they had to be they had to be operated by people turning wheels, and then these kind of machinery that was hand turned by slaves or whatever, or by executioners, that those mechanisms would then, when they turn this wheel or move that with their hands on the outside, it would cause the walls or one wall to encroach into the room, and would cause one wall to go all the way, to move all the way towards the other wall where the knives are. The knives wouldn't be touching each other. The knives would be stabbing in between each other, so that whoever's in there will be stabbed by 100 or 200 knives at the same time, and pierced through, all the way through, from both sides. And as a child, I painted that a lot, and I had not seen that anywhere. I had never seen that anywhere. Nobody even talked to me about this. Nobody ever mentioned that. Nobody was talking about these kind of things. My parents never talked about this kind of stuff. My parents didn't understand why I was painting this at all. I didn't understand it, why I painted that. But what I felt when I painted that was terror. And that's why I had to paint it, because this was something that was inside of my head. Some kind of memory, okay? Where does that memory come from? And so the memory was so persistent. I had nightmares about it. I had day visions about it. I was terrorized day and night by the Iron Maiden. I didn't even know how to call it. So, but that's what they called it in England. I don't know how they called it in Germany. I'm sure they had a name for that in Germany. I don't even know what they would call this. I just found out later that this thing is called Iron Maiden. I didn't even know when I was a fan of the heavy metal band Iron Maiden. I didn't even know then, when I was in my 20s, I didn't even know then what Iron Maiden meant. And later on, so somehow I found out what that meant, and I was like, oh my gosh, Iron Maiden, that is that thing that I painted as a child. And then much later I found out about reincarnation, and then I found out, and much later I found out on YouTube. I mean, I was like 10 years ago or something only, I found out about other children that are tormented with something that doesn't come from their current lifetime, that comes from a former lifetime. And there are children that have reported things in absolute minutest detail, with names and localities and battle names, battleships, helicopters, airplane names, all of that, like minutest details of their previous life. And then the parents would look this up. These kids would report this in the age of internet. When I was a child, that was long before the internet. And my parents, even if I did mention any kind of names, they would brush that off as crazy. Even though my dad had all of these books in his shelf, about parapsychology, psi books, parapsychology stories, and people's reports on certain things, on the paranormal. He was very interested in it, but at the end of the day, he would brush it all off and say, that's just these are all hoaxes. And my parents are pretty determined atheist agnostics. Okay, so, and they have been also long before I was born. So that's one advantage that I had, that I didn't grow up with brainwash. So that's very good, actually. So then I can come to my own conclusions throughout my life. So anyone who already grows up with brainwash, it gets difficult to free oneself out of those vice grips of religion and any kind of indoctrination. That's why Paul told me that he heard a long time ago in his life, many times, his parents say that the Catholics always say, if you have a child from 7, you have that child for life. And they don't say that in a critical way. They say that they're very proud of that. So they're proud of indoctrinating their children and making them slaves of the Vatican, which is mafia and total insanity and crime, organized crime. The Catholic religion is organized crime. Okay, so the Muslim religion is violent terror. Okay, it's a fact. The Jewish religion, the Orthodox Jewish religion, is very, very, very much like the Muslim religion, with animal sacrifices. It's pure terror. Okay, I have to say it. These are facts. Look it up for yourselves. So, and that's why I don't adhere to any religion. I am against religion in general. I don't want anything to do with any religion. Religion is wrong. Religion is brainwash. So the paranormal is not religion. The paranormal goes into the area of panpsychism. Occult that's a science. Helena Petrovna, I would say, from all in history, Helena Petrovna was and will always be the #1 scientist of parapsychology, of the occult, because she studied that in depth. She traveled around the whole world, starting at like age 18, 19, traveling around the whole world, back and forth. Back then was boats, and fighting people's battles and risking her life, and incredible woman. Okay. Absolutely incredible. And I say that Helena Petrovna is one of the incarnations of the blue god. Jiddu Krishnamurti comes after her, another incarnation of the blue god. So Helena Petrovna wanted to study all the different religions, and I'm not showing you. And in order to find out how people came to those beliefs, so what made them write all of these things down, and what kind of psychics did they have. And so she was just interested more from an anthropological view, anthroposophical, anthropological viewpoint, and from the viewpoint of panpsychism, from the viewpoint of synopsis creation, So let's see what this person has to say about this or this very same thing, or this very same phenomenon. Let's see what the other tribe has to say about it. Let's see what this nationality has to say about it. Let's see what the Aborigines say about this. Let's see what the people from South India say about this. Let's see what the Celtics say about this. Let's see what the Vikings say about this. And bringing all of this into context with the land and the climate and so on. And searching for the truths in between the lines. So that's what I'm saying, if you have a religious script, there are some sparks of truth in there, embedded into a bunch of fairy tales and made up stories and attempts to brainwash the public or scare the public. The Bible has a lot of those scare tactics in it. The Quran too. So if you don't do this, then this will happen. Or if you see how your dad is drunk, then that's gonna be bad for your karma or whatever, So Bible has these kind of things. The story of Ham, Derek Jensen pointed that out. I thought that was very good of Derek Jensen to point that out. I think he grew up Catholic. And the writer Derek Jensen, environmentalist, I met him in person. I bought 2 books from him, or 3 books from him at the library. He hand signed them. I gave them away eventually. I don't hang on to books very much. So he also signed my animal personhood petition. So one of those he signed, and I'm very grateful to him for that. So, and yeah, that was a bad timing for me to meet him, because I was totally out of it at that time. We had just lost a dog, and our dog Samantha, and I was a complete mess, psychological mess. And when I met Derek Jensen at the library, I was just a total bitch, and I chased him away and all of that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm grateful to him that he signed my petition, and that he accepted my apology on the internet. So yeah, it's not easy, all of this. It's not easy. For me to meet a celebrity, because I am just bound to mess it up. I want them so much, I'm determined to mess it up, because I want them way too much. So, and then I will just mess it up, because my mental illness, self-sabotage, maybe there's an underlying feeling that things that I don't deserve to be around an intellectual or something. So I don't know what it is, but I have been very determined to mess up any kind of contact to people that I admired. It's sad, and I don't know why I do it. So, but the only way we can find out is if we go into our own minds. And so I see that a lot with people. I'm not just the only person. I don't know what I would say if I met Billie Eilish. I don't know what crazy stuff would come out of my mouth. I start lecturing for an hour and not letting anyone talk. So I don't know what I might do, you know. So, and then the other people are like, okay, let me just get the heck out of here. So yeah, that kind of stuff happens, and it happens to a lot of people. And so I wanna, no, not in this regard, but it does tie into it. There are a lot of people that systematically sabotage any kind of contact with regular people, and some of those people, it goes to the point where they become vicious to normal regular people who they would like to be friends with, and they become vicious to them. And so from my own observations, it is because I'm trying to understand people. I want to know what goes through cluster B people, what goes through their minds. So I observe hostility, I observe trollish behavior, I observe mocking, viciousness, retaliation, and very demonic type of backstabbing, type of psychological backstabbing, terror, torment. I don't function like this. I'll never do this to anyone. I mean, I might be lecturing someone for an hour, but that's it. You know, it's not. I didn't mean it in any negative way. I didn't even mean it in an egoic way. It's probably out of insecurity, out of like I can't even. I'm afraid of silence in that moment, I guess, you know, and I just have to blab away. But I do it because I mean well. So I don't think Billie Eilish would walk away. Billie Eilish and her brother, they would not walk away. I feel like they wouldn't hate me. But, you know, I don't know, then I would feel very insecure. Maybe I wouldn't even talk at all because I feel too insecure. I don't know what I would do, or I would stutter. So that happened to me once. I met Vin Diesel and I started stuttering. It was very embarrassing. So I met Jimmy Donaldson at Hot Springs. I sat there, I couldn't say anything. I sat there with my papa dog at Hot Springs. I sat there in the van door. The guys walked by there with their kayak. They waved to us. They were shy too, but I was like so shy. I could not, the Blue God agrees. I was so shy. I waved and I blushed and I looked down on the ground, and that's it. I could not even say anything. I think I said hi, and then I didn't say anymore. So, and that's what I get very shy. I can get very, very shy when I meet someone in person. So, but Billie Eilish and her brother, they're so generous. They are so compassionate. They are such old souls. They would understand. They would see through. They would know that I'm blabbing because I'm insecure, because I just want to give and give and give and give my love, you know. So other people might interpret that as something else. And so that's what I want to talk about in terms of cluster B. A cluster B person, if I meet a cluster B person, and I've met many, of course, because the world is full of them. Most people are cluster B, actually. I'm sorry to say it. it's the truth. The truth hurts, but that's why I say, that's why the world is suffering, because the vast majority of humans are cluster B, Machiavellian, the ones in politics, the liars, the deceivers, the stock market people, the scam artists, the corporatists, the ones that have their price, no matter what it is that the corporatist asks them to do. And the child abusers, the pedophiles, and the list goes on and on and on and on. The animal torturers. That's the worst. That's the absolute worst. And I sit there on my computer. I look into the world, and I feel like I'm getting a heart attack. So I really do. I'm not showing you. Not showing you. I feel like getting a heart attack when I'm signing these animal petitions. That guy throwing a puppy down, I don't know where that was, East Coast somewhere. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. It's unbearably heartbreaking to see that. For a man throwing a puppy brutally down on the ground, and then the puppy lies there broken ribs. And then there are other people standing around laughing. Crowds of people laughing. So when I see that, I have to say something. I have to speak out. First of all, I signed this petition. This was not just a petition to click on. This was a petition for us to write our own letter to those two sheriffs. They have the email addresses there. Now it's today. You just have to click on that, and it opens up your server, and then you can write something. And you write your own text. Okay. So I forgot exactly what I wrote, but I said that cruelty to animals cannot be tolerated anymore. Donald Trump signed a very important bill into effect. Please enforce this bill. Enforce that law. So that is my petition to them. And I wrote it to two of them that are in that area. And that's very important, and I posted it on Facebook and Twitter, and I hope people will write their letter to them as well. So go to Nicola Dandelion on Facebook. If you scroll down, you will see it. Yeah, you see the puppy thrown on the ground, white with black spots. I think pit bull puppy. It's unbelievably horrific. And if you scroll down on Twitter, or if you go to my Twitter page, you will see it. And you can click on it, and it will open up, and if you scroll down on the PETA page, it will go down to all the way on the bottom is the petition area. You can read all about it. Okay, you can watch the video. They have a video on it, and I've already seen the video on Twitter. Someone who just put the video there, and I scroll down, and that video opens without even asking anyone whether they are capable of watching that video. And that's another thing that I'm asking from Twitter. That's very, very important. Don't just show or stream some brutal, violent stuff. Have that somehow have a different, I don't know, have some kind of window that says this video may be disturbing to viewers, and don't show any photo, and just have a button or window that says video for more information, but only for people who are willing to watch a violent video. Because I don't want to watch violent videos. Okay, I don't want that thrown into my face. I saw that in a split second. I had to scroll down. I had to turn that off. Okay, I can't watch that stuff. There's a lot of violent stuff that doesn't even come with a petition. So then later on, Paul told me about it. I remember then having seen a split second of that. It just makes me scream and howl. And so he said, you have to sign that petition. I said, of course. I go to my server, and there was the petition sent to me by Peter directly. And I signed it, and I did that. I cannot watch that video. There's no way. I get a nervous breakdown. So, but anyway, when I see this kind of cruelty happening in the world, and this is happening in the whole world, these are not individual rare cases. Okay, this is happening all over the place, all the time. This kind of stuff. All the time. Cruelty to animals in particular. But also cruelty to children and women and adult people in general. So, cruelty in general, happening all the time. Someone who is cruel to an animal would be equally cruel to a child, human child. There's no difference in the act of that. That whatever species that living sentient being is, someone who hurts a sentient being, any sentient being, that is all the same, exact same cruelty. It's the same act, the same cruelty, the same violence, and it hurts that living being exactly the same as this hurts the other living being. Okay. This is very important that people understand this. Okay. Mammals, one shouldn't have to explain that. Even a mouse. So birds as well. And many other types of animals. And some animals you wouldn't expect extreme high sentience, like an octopus. Extreme high sentience, every bit as sentient as the human. The whales are even more sentient than we are, even more. Okay. Elephants, giraffes, equally sentient to us. Dolphins, equally sentient to humans. Many, many, many species equally sentient. Exactly equally sentient. Not just in terms of pain reception, but in terms of psychology, in terms of brain complexity. Okay? So, but all mammals are equally sentient in terms of what they feel. Also psychologically. It's very important that people understand that. And the violent people, they do know. That's why they are cruel. So why would they? They don't cut their office chair, right? They don't take the knife and cut the office chair. They may do vandalism, but they're not gonna go there and go to a window door and cut that window door. No. They go to a living being. There's sadistic people that want to see that living being hurt. And my whole life I have been trying to find out why there are so many people that do this kind of stuff. my whole life. This is a quest journey to find out what is going on in a sadistic person's brain. So there are different different scientists and psychologists that are getting into this. Paul is already looking at me with a very annoyed facial expression. His answer is it's genetic. Okay, so yeah, there's no doubt about it. Of course it's genetic. But again, when a hater says to me, when I asked the hater, why did this guy Brian beat up this woman that he was in love with, beat her, leaving her behind in a puddle of blood, leaving her for dead, and people found her just by a hair, really saved her life. Her neck was cut, but not into the aorta, didn't hit that. If it hit that, she wouldn't survive that. Okay. She barely survived and got to tell who it was. And she didn't understand. She knew this guy for 2 years. He had been working for her, had been some kind of handyman working for her. And they always invited them in and made them tea and coffee and gave him cakes and were generous with him and always nice and happy to see them. And suddenly he decides to butcher her up. Okay. So what's going on in a brain like this? So when I asked the hater says to me, he did this to feel like he was in charge again. And I'm grateful that the hater told me that. I am very appreciative of this. Thank you for saying that. Because I believe that is the truth. Okay. So that's introspection. To say that is introspection. And we need more of that. We need more introspection. It's very, very important. Otherwise, we can't fix the world. Every single person has to help with this. Every single person has to be willing to introspect and look into their own minds. That's even more difficult on drugs and alcohol and all of this. Makes it even more difficult. But you have no other choice. And you have to go to a rehab. You have to completely detox. You have to do that for yourself. Okay. And after that, you can't just go back to your other friends. You can't go back to your alcoholic friends or drug addict friends. There's no way. There's no way you're going to make it through. Okay. You have to completely quit all of those people. You have no other choice, okay, to save your own life. So, or they will drag you down. They will drag you down into hell with them. And obviously, these people always cut their lifespan in half, or even into a third or a quarter. I have known people my age, back when we were in our 20s. I've known people who were heroin addicts. I found out later on from someone else that they were. And they died from an overdose. So, and I felt really, really sad for them. Really sad. Particularly this one girl that was very much like me. She had no boundaries at all. She was a needy puppy dog, like me. I saw myself in her, but she didn't even have the Medusa. She didn't even have anger. She didn't even have that inner voice that said, You need to stand up for yourself. You need to say no to some people. She just fell full force into the drugs and then finished herself off with it. It's a suicide. It's a suicide mission. That's what that is. So it's infinitely sad and tragic. So we need therapy help centers for all of these different type of people, for drug addicts, for cluster A, which are schizoid personalities, all homeless people. Okay, cluster A therapy help center, closed center, closed institution. Okay, they need to be forced institutionalized. Okay, because they're not gonna go there voluntarily. Because, like with all of these homeless shelters, most of those people, they don't stay there. They go there for a day to take advantage and then they leave. And they go back on their drugs. Because that's what they want to do. So for their own good, they need to be institutionalized. Donald Trump wanted to do it. Governor Newsom refused. Okay, so now we have a mess here in California because of Governor Newsom. It's a terrible mess. The majority of people voted against him. Why is this man still in office? Okay, the reason why is because he's a corporatist. He serves the corporate agenda. Now we have cancel culture. We have total censorship. This is a tyrannical dictatorship that is rolling up. So it could end up with China taking over if we're lucky. And if we're not lucky, it's going to become more and more corrupted. If we're really unlucky, Islam is going to take over. Okay, and I will not be wearing Till Eulenspiegel hat. Trust me on this one. So I'm probably going to hang myself on this hat or something. No, that's not the best way of going, but. Maybe I'll let them chop my head off. It's probably easier. But it would be much better to be just shot into the head than any of this stuff. But, hanging around, sticking around, if Islam takes over, no thank you. Not interested. So, don't look any further than Iran. You see what's going on there. There are some brave women standing up against that horror, and they are not just risking their lives, they're giving their lives to overturn the government, to completely free Iran from the shackles of this horror. Those are my heroes, those women that are standing up and that are giving their lives as martyrs on the streets, standing up. That's a different kind of revolution. That's a different kind of protest. That's the protest of angels and gods. Okay, and you better listen to these people. Okay, those are brave souls that are standing up against that regime of terror. So I want to see more courage here in the United States happening. But just to wrap the video up, I want to know what's going on inside of these people's brains. What is going on in the brain of a Muslim man who beats his wife, who closes the windows with newspapers so that no other man can get a peek through the window at his wife. She's not even allowed to say hi to another man. She's not allowed to look at another man. She is shackled and incarcerated in her own house, in a chador, mummified alive. Okay? And many of these women commit suicide. Sometimes a woman will murder her husband because there's no other way around it, in self-defense. and in the defense of her child or her dog, to defend her dog. Those are brave women that will take lethal force, to put it that way. Okay, so this is not misunderstood. When lethal force is necessary, it has to be applied to save your dog and your child and yourself from a violent predator. So I will not date a Muslim man. Okay, I have done that before, I was like, okay, well, I had no idea, I was naive. Okay, he beat me up, I'm finished. Okay, never again. And I see it on the internet. Most of those people are very, very violent. I don't trust them. I had an Iranian dentist, Muslim. He kind of petted and massaged my hand, was like really nice, very flirty and all of that. I don't trust him, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go with him to Iran. Let's put it that way, So for anyone who hasn't heard about Betty Mahmoudi is a woman from the United States. She made the mistake of marrying an Iranian man in the United States. And I think he was her dentist, actually, or a physical or medical doctor. And very educated, very well behaved, while on U.S. territory at that time. Today they're not even well behaved anymore on U.S. territory anymore because of the Vogue Society. Vogue Society gives them a complete free pass to violence. But that was a long time ago. That was like in the 80s when that happened. And she went with him to Iran, and as soon as they stepped onto Iranian ground, this entire person changed. He changed into a tyrannical dictator. And he beat her, he was brutal to her, and all of that. And she was already pregnant then by that time. Or, I don't know, or she already had a child, a daughter with him, and so she wrote a book called Not Without My Daughter. And my mother had that book. She loaned me the book. I read the book. I was like, I thought I was going to get a heart attack reading that book. And courageous souls, lots of courageous women working in the underground, in the Muslim regions, helping other women. Helping women get out of that hellhole. And they helped her out of that situation, her and her daughter. She said she'll never leave without her daughter. And she and her daughter, they got help from people, and they made it out alive, out of Iran, and came back to the United States. So, yeah, that is a pretty grim picture of what's happening in the human species, what kind of people are there. Those type of people are cluster B. Violent people are cluster B. They're psychopaths. That Muslim man, that husband of Betty Mahmoudi, he's a psychopath. And it is absolutely heartbreaking to hear those stories, and it's infinitely sad. And we need robots, we need armies of robots to clean up the planet from violent people. And other than that, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convey the message to them to take the journey into their own minds. because their lives are hell. Their lives are not happy. Yes, you're my everything. That is what you are. Yes, you are my everything. That is what you are. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. What's going on there? What's happening? Yes. What is happening? What is happening? Okay. And a dog need to be in the house. A dog needs to live in the house with us, with every single person. And every single person needs to learn how to house train a dog. Okay. And someone who is not capable of house training a dog should not even have a dog. Okay, so we need rigorous license for adopting a dog into your life. People need to go through like at least, I don't know, like a rigorous school that takes 4 years or something. And I think they also should go through a rigorous school to have a child, to make sure that they know what they're doing. They know how they're handling a child or an animal. How to be a good dog mother. They need to learn this. That needs to be learned. These kind of things. So, but none of that. What I'm talking about. We don't have any of this. We don't have license for adopting a dog, license for bringing a child into the world. We don't have therapy help centers. We don't have any of these things that I'm suggesting that are so vitally necessary. So Elon Musk had a very good idea on how to end the never-ending torment, the psychoterror on the internet. And the most straightforward way to do it is if people get only on every social media website, they have to sign in with their ID, with a photo, and with a video chat, with an interview video chat with a program or robot. That needs to be documented, all of this. And facial recognition, all of that. Okay. And ID, all of this registered. Okay. And then one account with their actual name. Or at least with their actual first name. And then maybe they can get some kind of artist last name or whatever if they want. But maybe just their first name, or just, for their own friendship identification there. Because many people have the same names, they can then later on choose some kind of artist name or something, if they don't want to use the actual last name. But for the robot, for the registration, they have to give their real name and their real ID and all of that. That has to be registered. Okay, that's the only way to cut down on internet crimes. In general. So very important and very, very, very great idea, because with that we can have social media based internet voting, and we can basically all of us, we can eliminate the entire voting system, which is so time consuming, and we do what Elon Musk suggests to do on Mars. Okay, we can do it here as well. You're signed in with your ID, you're registered, okay, you have your account, you come to the voting page, you vote for the person you want to vote for president, you vote for certain laws to be put into effect even. Yeah. We don't even need a president anymore. Everyone votes on the social media website. Much better than what we have right now. Right now, there are tons and tons and tons of trolls and fake accounts and bots. Okay, so, and Elon Musk even let the bots decide for him when he asked the question, should he step down and let someone else run Twitter as a CEO. The majority of those were bots that voted him out. And they came from the corporate agenda. So the majority of actual people did not want him to leave. Okay, so myself included. We wanted him to stay, but obviously he was completely overwhelmed. That's just too much work for one person to run all of these businesses, all of that, and still have an oversight. And so, I mean, that was just way too much stress. This man doesn't even get enough sleep. So it's horrible. That's why I want him to create a robot that can really be his right hand, that be an extension of himself, in physical shape, in brain, in versatility, in body movements, in everything, in every way, be a replica of himself and run all these other businesses and even have this brain expansion happening with that AGI brain. Okay, so, and then be interlinked with all of these robots with the Neuralink, and so that the robots and his brain can constantly exchange information and stay on track what's going on with everything. So I figure that must be so bamboozling and so confusing and so overwhelming, like to be bombarded with all of that information at once all the time. I don't think I could do it. So but anyway, I want to wrap the video up. Now I'm getting way over an hour now. I want to know what's going on in cluster B people's brains, and it is important that these people introspect. We cannot have violent people on this planet, so nothing is going to happen in this regard of law enforcement, with particularly the way it's going politically. It's going to get worse and worse and worse because of corruption. So we're going to have an army of robots, but in the meantime, this is all I can say to everyone, people have a choice. As my therapist Esther Odermatt always said to me, Nicola, do you have a choice? And I would say, yes, I know, I have a choice. I can choose to go on the path where I go into myself, where I don't commit suicide, where I introspect instead, where I call her instead, where I cry it out. So those were my choice options, in therapy, because I was always on the edge. But a cluster B person is usually not having that choice between suicide and introspection. A cluster B people acts out on others. The cluster B person does not lean towards suicide. The cluster B person leans towards hurting others and homicide. Okay, homicidal maniac. Okay, that's cluster B. That's a psychopath. And they're very, very fast in lashing out at other people. That can happen in a split second because he feels disrespected by someone. So I know, to a certain degree, I know what is going on. They are insecure. They feel deep down, they feel shame, which has been put on them through society and their parents. But they don't, instead of looking at that picture and looking at it critically, they will brag up their parents. They will coronate them onto the level of God, because the ego wants to think, I am like God and my parents are like God and we are so great, and we are amazing and we are so super and we are so tough, and whatever they're telling themselves. And deep down there is the total insecurity, there's the screaming child, the terrified inner core, the traumatized person. The trauma is all there. Okay, trauma later on, it is, the ego identifies that as weakness and shame and all of that kind of stuff. So they take themselves extra seriously. The slightest laughter of someone or the slightest humor someone has, innocent humor, can throw them over the edge, can make them kill that person, can make them feel disrespected. As the blue god agrees with me. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay. Now, what I'm saying here is the truth. Okay, I'm not saying this to put anyone down. This is happening with the majority of humans. That's why the world is suffering. My plea to the world is, go into your own mind. Okay, you have no other choice other than to do it. You have no other choice. So this flower is for Sandy. And Sandy is an angel soul. Okay, I'm an indigo soul. Okay. And there was one more thing that I wanted to say. All of this going through my mind all the time, non-stop. I saw a hater on Twitter say the other day, it would break him to be kind. So I thought, I thank you for saying that, because that's another insight. You let us in one notch more of an insight into your mind. Me looking into your mind is not going to break you, okay? You being nice is not going to break you, for sure. This is my guarantee. This is my promise to you, okay? I promise you a rose garden and a rhododendron garden. If you are willing to go through that ego dissolution funnel, okay, to go through it, to go through the introspection. So these two statements, he hit her to feel like he's back in charge, okay. He's mean to me because he wants to feel like a lion, makes him feel like a lion. That was another one. That was a while back. And the statement, being kind, would feel like it's breaking him. He would feel like he's breaking apart if he's kind. So now I find this statement to be extremely puzzling, and I'm grateful to you that you said it. So I want you to help me with this and explain more in detail why you said it and what goes through your mind. What is it about being kind that makes you think that it would break you? Being kind to me or any woman or any being, okay? Why would it make you feel like this would break you to be kind? I leave you with this question now, okay? So you guys take care. Bye-bye.